even if I wasn't well aware that there was going to be a different director for this episode of Konosuba doing the art style this week, I definitely would have known something was off after finishing this episode. Now, I'm going to just dive straight head first into that, because many are going to be talking about it, and it's one of the big things I know many have always talked about when it comes to Konosuba, so I want to dive into that first thing. So many are going to be looking at this episode and looking at the art style of Konosuba Season 2, Episode 4, and be thinking like, what the fuck is going on with the characters' faces, to the style, to the freaking boobs? Okay, so this is more of a choice of style. For instance, the director's actual style of design for characters. For instance, big ass boobs, saggy boobs, big ass boobs, boobs that are the size of your head or even bigger than that. That is a design decision, and many might be looking at this episode thinking like, what the fuck? Like, did the animation and art go down? No, it's just, you know, the director, the style from the director. Because as you know, when it comes to directors and when they're directing, you know, character design, stuff like that, sometimes the art design can really change throughout the entirety of different episodes. Like, when you're watching an episode, next episode can be completely different, like, in terms of style of the art, because it's a different director. A perfect example of this when it comes to mind is Spaced Den. He had many directors on it constantly doing different episodes and different art styles throughout, you know, the entirety of the series, and so that's kind of what's happening here. You have it to where there is, you know, this person that is known for this type of art style comes in. It's very different from what we're normally used to, especially with the last couple episodes we've gotten of Konosuba. So to dive straight into it, many are probably going to be thinking like, what the hell is with the art? Well, new director. That is why. It's like a different director. The director's already worked on Konosuba before, but just the past couple episodes, the director hasn't been working on Konosuba, and he's finally back working on an episode, and that's what we have right here. So let's actually talk about it for a second. To be completely frank with all of you, I'm not the biggest fan of massive-ass Oppai. I mean, I know it's on Darkness's character, which fits, but I'm not the biggest fan of that type of stuff. It really annoys me when you just see a character that has these breasts that straight up look like they have tumors inside of them, and they're just so massive, like, how are you even standing? I mean, how are you even alive? That's the questions that come to mind when I'm sitting here, you know, watching a show. And I mean, if this was not Konosuba, like, if this legit was not Konosuba, honestly, I would have been completely distracted by the breasts. And they were very, very distracting just because of how massive they were compared to Darkness's head. But if this was not Konosuba, it honestly would have annoyed the fuck out of me. It really would have. But since, honestly, there's a lot of comedy that can distract you away from that type of stuff, but also there's some really good characters in here, like, you know, Kazuma, I mean, overall, I was able to kind of ignore it for the most part. But I could see when Minnie comes into this episode, they might be very agitated or annoyed with this choice of art style when it comes to Konosuba. And so if you're wondering why the art style is a little bit different, there you go. That is why. Now, like I said, to be completely frank with you, not the biggest fan of, you know, Oppai. They're just bigger than a fucking head, but yeah, I guess we're just gonna have to deal with it. Still, great episode of Konosuba. So, getting into the actual details of this episode of Konosuba Season 2, Episode 4, it focuses around Darkness. Now, as we've already seen from the past couple episodes, we know that it's been focusing on Aqua and Megumi. We've had those centered episodes on these two characters, and it's finally time we got a Darkness-orientated episode. And that's what we have this week. We have a Darkness episode, getting to see a little bit about her, you know, life at her home, get to see how her family is, get to see how she's constantly having an arranged marriage, and how Cosmo's trying to get rid of Darkness out of his party in any way he possibly can, and also seeing how much of a scumbag he really can be at the end of the day. I mean, it's a very simplistic episode, and I could see many not liking this episode because of the style of it. It was kind of something that was very stereotypical, especially something you would see in a harem or any type of series kind of similar to this, not completely, but somewhat similar. Usually you might see an arranged marriage or something like this, and many that probably watch Konosuba might want to watch it for adventurous type stuff. For instance, just going on an adventure, doing stuff like we saw in last week's episode of Konosuba with Aqua and Cosmo. That was a really good episode, and I love even the emotions it brought to the table when I was sitting down and watching the episode. So I could see many not really liking this episode because of how different it is. It tries to, you know, do something out of what we're normally not seeing from the series, which overall, I personally have no problem with it because I do like seeing characters out of their normal environment. I've said this many times throughout many other videos on this channel, but I mean, I do like the characterization that Darkness got. I mean, seeing how she acts at her home, she still acts the exact same way as she acts around Cosmo, and it does show that there is a likely possibility that she might have some very good feelings for Cosmo because of some of the things that were said in this episode. And one of the big things was the final scene of the episode when Cosmo and, you know, found out, like, Darkness was joking around, but Darkness says, like, hey, Cosma, you know, we had a thing, and, I'm bearing his child inside of me, and I'm like, oh my god, Darkness, like, holy shit, do you know what you just said? And when you see the father freaking out, like, he's just crying, like, I expected the father to get really pissed off. I'm just gonna be completely honest, I thought the father was gonna get pissed off and want to execute Cosma, because I've seen it enough from other series, but he didn't act like that. He just got very sad and upset. He's like, I'm finally gonna have a grandchild, he just did this man all tearing up, and I'm like, oh, that's so sweet, but it's sad at the same time, because she's obviously lying, unless there was something that happened that we didn't see, but, well, we know Cosma, this man's a virgin. Just the main point is that a Darkness episode is pretty enjoyable. She's one of my personal favorite characters. I mean, I love Megumin, I love Megumin episodes, I do like Aqua, but Darkness has something about her that's just really interesting. I love her personality, the way she acts, and the way she can really just make something very, I guess, lewd in a lot of ways. It's funny as fuck, especially how she acts towards Cosma, and when Cosma's like, you're just making this seem very bad. And I mean, that entire scene when they were kind of fighting and stuff, and he was doing the drain touch him, and she was breaking his fingers. That shit was good. That was pretty fucking funny. So, there was a lot of moments throughout this episode I was having a good laugh, and I mean, if you like Darkness and you like the comedy that usually is around her character, then most likely you're gonna fucking enjoy this episode, because we've been lacking Darkness since the beginning of Season 2 started. I mean, we had a little bit of her here and there, but overall, she's been relatively lacking this season because we haven't seen her that much. No screen time. So yeah, overall, episode of Konosuba, Season 2, Episode 4, it was an enjoyable episode. It does have a few problems in my personal opinion just because of the art style. Now, like I said, that's just my own personal opinion. Many might like the saggy boobs. Many might like the fucking tumor watermelons, but I mean, personally, I'm not a big fan of that, but I still like Konosuba, so I can look past that. But overall, the episode did overall have its problems, but it was still fun to watch. It's still the same old Konosuba that we know and love. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about this week's episode of Konosuba? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Please let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. And I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.